Good morning, good afternoon. This webinar is about DR365V and VS, and another one is V and V-HA. The difference between these appliances, based on, let me show you this one, is this is a V version, single node. The V-HA is the HA version or cluster version of this product. The difference is that this has two head controllers plus the storage controllers. And the third one is a scale out, which is basically looks like a single controller multiple times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, hundreds. So it can scale out as many as nodes you want. So it depends on your need. Either you go with a single node or HA node if you have a mission critical applications, and you cannot possibly have the backup being any way compromised. So there's no single point of failure, and these are in fully cluster mode, and everything is twice and fail over within few seconds. Or you can have a scale out node because you have so many virtual machines and so much terabyte you need, and you need to scale as more and more and more as you need, because there is no limit of how many virtual machines you're going to have and how much capacity you have and how you want to spin up all this virtual machine in case of disaster. So you can go with one of these three different chassis, basically, or different paradigm. And then the second part is that these they come in single node, for example, come in the 12 bay, 16 bay, 24 bay, 36 bay, 64 bay, and 90 bay. And we will today we just basically we'll talk about days, and then if you can these are the number of bays available, and you can put 4 terabyte all the way to 12 terabyte. These are SAS drives, 7200 RPM, and you could have other drives, of course, if you need it for, the 15,000, 10,000 RPM drives, SAS drives, you can also put in there, and SSDs also is 480 and 980. And the storage control, we'll talk about it, a little bit more of the protocols that we support in the appliance. Going back to the architecture of this unit, is that the architecture consists of the drives that we talked about. You pick up the chassis that you like, 12 bay, 16 bay, 24 bay, 36 bay, and extra, etc. And then then there is a SSD. Also, you can mix with SSDs. SSD, we'll talk about what their usage of SSD is in these cases. And you can have it with a RAID controller, hardware RAID controller, or erasure coding. Erasure coding is native to the system, and RAID controller is an optional component, and you can add that to the system. It would increase the IOPS, and definitely, and has a battery backup. And then it also consists of integrated hypervisor. This hypervisor pretty much our standard hypervisor that it's for compatible purpose. We use VMware ESXi hypervisor. Any kind of licensing, being Essential, Essential Plus, or Enterprise, you can bring your own license, or you can purchase license from us, or the System Center, or the Hyper-V. Both of them, they would, as you have the hypervisor, these hypervisors can be connected to, let's say, a management like vCenter or a System Center, and the whole appliance can be seen by these management controllers, and then you can spin up your virtual machine, see how many virtual machines you have on this appliance, so you can do all kinds of maintenance remotely on this appliance via your System Center or your vCenter. Now, moving on, there is the center of this appliance there is a storage controller. This storage controller, of course, it brings you three different type of storage. Provides the block mode storage, provides the file mode storage, and provides object storage. So it provides three different level of storage protocols for you, and we'll talk about each of them. The first one is basically that we have integrated in this appliance. The block mode storage provides IOs, high IOs as a SAN appliance to your backup software or backup module, which is in this case is Veeam, and this provides the SAN capability, block mode, high IOPS to databases for indexing, for cataloging, and for any kind of synthetic builds and things like that that needs a lot of IOPS to work in there. And then you have the file-based system repository, and that can provide archiving, long-term archiving. At the same time, some sort of a replication system for cloud or other remote data centers that you might have, or you can either use the block or file. Both of them, they would replicate at the block mode. Another thing is that when you use file mode repository, that's a shareable. So if you have any kind of like Veeam Explorer or anything else, you can connect to the backup files and you can view them or you can restore them. So, different users might have access to different files and be able to restore their own files or view their files and explore their files. Also, this storage controller, beside providing just file mode, block, and object, it provides the data services like snapshot, replication, dedupe, encryption, then provisioning, tiering, cloud connections, replication, synchronous and asynchronous. So number of data services that all their enterprise data services, it provides it at the block mode. So it's very fast, very efficient, very manageable. It also provides this storage controller object storage capability to the AWS S3. Then, another it provides the blob connection to Azure, so those repository can be used as a local repository or as a replication storage repository for backup and disaster recovery that you have. So this also functions as a basically ransomware and malware protection for you. It does three functions. One is authentication system, which is built to the system, only has allows certain connections from Veeam to be connected to the storage, and so that isolates it from anybody else who can want to access to the storage and maliciously attack your files and then your systems. The second part is that this storage controller is a lockdown storage controller, so there is no access to this storage controller. Has a different file system and it's purely locked down, and there is no modification can be done to it, so there's no encryptions or malwares can affect it. Third is it creates a snapshot capability within its own managed repository area, which is read-only basic, and it's mountable pretty much by the appliance itself only, and there is no other appliances or anything can access and even understand what the nature of these snapshots are and be able to mount them. So in that case, it's pretty isolated from any attacks or any other things that can come to the system. So as we said, this appliance is basically can be integrated to the vCenter as a plugin, and those vCenters can see all the virtual machines. They can spin up the virtual machine. It depends how much resources you allocate to this unit, and this unit usually comes with 2 sockets. Starts at 216 cores. You can upgrade to each of these cores to 22 cores. and so you can have total of 44 cores. It comes in 32 gig of memory, and then these 32 gig are some of them allocated to a storage controller and backup. Then the rest of them is allocated to spinning up virtual machines, and these virtual machines, basically, if you have more, memory and CPU, as I said, it comes with two 8 cores, and one 8 core or two 8 cores. It has two sockets, and then it can go up to two 22 cores, and so plenty of upgrades available to you. At the same time, the memory is 32 gig, 64 gig, 128 gig, 512 gig, and so on and so forth, 384, and goes up to 1.5 terabyte. And the SSD, you can get, these are optional SSDs. They used as a flash storage, so basically all the traffic comes into this appliance, then through it's two dual 10 gig. It has a dual 10 gig RJ45. You can upgrade those or change those to SFP plus, and those are optional. And when the traffic comes in, if you enable part of this even SSD as a flash, then it works as a flash cache in front of your magnetic disk storage, which is or your SAS drives. It also can be tier the storage, and then as a tiered storage, then pays per policy. It depends how old the file is or how much is used. Then this would be your hot tier. Then you can just create hot tier, cold tier type of thing. So whenever that policy expires, then it goes into the cold tier or lower tier, or the lower tier could be the cloud. So it can migrate between all these tiers if you use cloud tiering. And also SSD can be directly mapped as a storage. So your virtual machine can actually, when you spin up the virtual machine, can run directly off these SSDs in a block mode format, which is iSCSI. So you can provision these SSDs as iSCSI drives when you spin up these virtual machines, so you can get very high performance capability in this unit for your DR. And this could be very par with your host that you presently has, and sometimes even exceed the performance of some of your hosts. So the very high performance, very optimized, not only for backup, but also disaster recovery and failover appliance. It has its own protection system, through it's a SAN controller for snapshots and then replication to the cloud itself. So it has Cloud Connect to multiple Azure and AWS cloud, which are the popular clouds. Of course, you can get this appliance as a virtual appliance, and there's a number of places. If you get it as a virtual machine, then you can deploy this somewhere in the your own data center or somewhere else, and you can just create the replication. So, and you can replicate remotely, and you can have one of these guys, one to many, many to one, one to one. You can create any kind of configurations if you have branch offices, anything like that. And if you have, if you decide to go to any cloud systems, if you go to, for example, Microsoft, this is a Microsoft website. If you go to Microsoft Azure website, just type in Veeam, type in Azure/StoneFly, you go right to the Azure. You can Google it and find it. When you go in there, you look at the pricing. You do have per hour pricing from Microsoft. You have per month pricing, and you have bring your own license. So you can bring your own license. If you decide to bring your own license, you can purchase a license. I'll show you from us. These appliances exist in all Microsoft data center, all the way in US, East, West, South, anywhere in US. That there's number of location. You can just deploy it in Europe if you want. You can deploy it in Asia if you want. Your East Coast, East Japan's, and so on and so forth. So this appliance has been deployed in all these data centers in a commercial, at the same time government. So if you are a government entity, you can ask us. We can set you up in the government section of, for example, Azure, multiple data centers in US. And you have to be either a government contractor or government agency. And so if you decided to buy the product, you can go to our website. You can go to Storage Appliance. This is our cloud version, and either you buy it as a virtual machine or you buy the license for Azure. You go in there and you can purchase it. You can also read about these appliances and everything else on Veeam website. If you Google again, Veeam space, let's say StoneFly, you go to Veeam Cloud Connect, and Veeam Cloud Connect, which basically, shows you the StoneFly as a cloud drive and how to use it in Azure and so on and so forth. There's a very nice paper, and shows the testing and everything else that Veeam has done on this one. And if you have any questions, any you want to see demos, or you want to try it yourself, or you want to get a test drive, please let us know. Otherwise, the appliances are number of appliances as you see here. This is the single appliance. This is the it's basically dual. Is a dual controller. Is the clustered. So if one side fails, it goes to the second part. And if you have your need is higher than that, and you want to go to the bigger appliances, you can go to a scale out appliance, which is under VS, and this is similar to the first node, the single node, and then you can get the second node, third node, fourth node, fifth node, 100 nodes, 200 nodes, whatever. And as you scale out, of course you have bigger capacity on storage, and first node would be a director basically, and the second one could be a proxy, and third proxy, fourth proxy, and all that. Proxy's jobs is just executing the backup jobs, and so you can run very, very large workload process at the same time, so you can have all the parallel backup. And this is a single namespace. It can extend it. Of course, it is a hybrid. It could be a local appliance at the same time local storage. It could be cloud, which would be part of it. So you can extend it to the cloud as well, to Amazon or Azure cloud, or you can use the Azure and Amazon as just only replication and disaster site. So you have a lot of options, a lot of flexibility, and as you scale out, you can not only the capacity scales out, you can the CPU and memory in these units will be one big giant CPU memory resources for your virtual machine to spin up. So you have a lot of capability of, as far as spinning up lots of virtual machine as you go and you grow your organization. If you have any question, please let us know, and we'll be more than happy to help. Thank you for attending.